comes to knowing what's interesting in the NBA and why, there's no one better than Yahoo Sports' Adrian Wojnarowski. Nailed it! Yeah. Woj came in this week to record an episode of the Garbage Time podcast, which is up right now. Bonus episode. It went up on a Tuesday, so go get it. Isn't that a rap song? It went up on a Tuesday. Whatever. We talked about Blatt versus LeBron, Warriors versus Spurs, and what DeMarcus Cousins has been doing lately. Check it out. Let's talk about the Cavs. Why did they fire David Blatt? Framingham boy, David Blatt. He's from my hometown.
David Blatt, from the very beginning, listen, he was hired to coach a team that they thought was going to be Kyrie Irving, Wiggins. They thought it was going to be a young team that was going to try to make the playoffs, and then they get LeBron in free agency in that July. LeBron rejected him from the very beginning. He didn't want to be coached by him. LeBron really was difficult his last year in Miami. He was really good the middle 2 years when they won the titles. The fourth year, he became a little more distant in Miami. I think mentally he started to check out. I think mentally he was headed out. He did not want to play for David Blatt from the beginning. Now, David struggled with the transition. There's no question he did, from the EuroLeague to the NBA, just like Billy Donovan is trying to figure out from college to the pros. And there's an adjustment period for anybody. It is hard to coach in the NBA. But when the star player is not going to buy into you from day one, it sends a message to the rest of the locker room of none of us have to buy in. And so it made it very difficult for him to be able to build a relationship, build a structure there that where he could have command of the locker room. And I think it's true in any organization. Like, the reason it works in San Antonio is because Tim Duncan, from day one bought into Greg Popovich, and Tim Duncan, if there's an issue in the locker room, Tim Duncan's taking care of it. Greg Popovich doesn't have to, Tim Duncan does. And when you can't have that as a coach in the league, it makes it really hard. So, they made a decision here in the last, obviously in the last week to fire Blatt, but it was inevitable because, listen, if you can't coach a team in the NBA, you can't coach the Cleveland Cavaliers if you don't have LeBron James on your side, and he didn't. And so whether they fired him now or at the end of the season or next year, I think it was inevitable.
What do you make of LeBron saying he was surprised and caught off guard? Do you really think he had no idea that was going to happen?
There's nothing that goes on. I mean, like, people aren't changing the copier. They're not changing paper in the copier in that facility without LeBron knowing it.
I'm not ashamed to admit that I've been laser focused on football the past few months. But football's over now, right? The season ended this weekend, right? It's over. So catch me up on NBA stuff. What are the three most interesting things, other than, Blatt being fired? What are, like, the three main interesting things happening in the league right now?
Well, what the Warriors are doing, the level they're playing
at. That game last night, was not what I expected.
Yeah, and just absolutely just destroyed the second best team. And listen, there were some of us who thought maybe the Spurs, and listen, no Tim Duncan, and you're playing in Golden State, and they're nearly impossible to beat at home. Yeah. And to think somebody in a playoff series is going to go into Golden State and win games there, it's hard to imagine. The level they're playing at, the level Steph Curry's playing at, we've never seen anybody play that position. It's hard to imagine he could get better. He did get better. They're so much fun to watch, and I think they've become. I think the streak they had early in the season, when people aren't paying attention to the NBA, when they run off 20-plus wins to start the season, they made people pay attention to the league at a time when people don't. Obviously, they're in their own category right now, and I think the Spurs, regardless of the loss last night, they're playing. It's just unbelievable to keep together what they have for so long and keep putting the pieces back around their core group and finding a way to stay elite. It's remarkable. Those two are head and shoulders above everybody else in the league. What's been interesting in the last week, DeMarcus Cousins scored over 100 points in his last two games.
Insane.
56 points against Charlotte on Monday night. He is just an absolute force of nature. Physically, there's nobody at that position. There's nobody like him in the league. And Sacramento's played better than we thought they might early.
Basketball. It's basketball season for me now because of the Patriots. Had to get that in there. Thanks, Woj. You guys can see the full interview on our YouTube channel or download the podcast on iTunes or SoundCloud right now. Go do it.